Good day, boxing fans. Much to be excited about. Saturday on the 22nd of February in Riyadh in the UAE takes place. Probably, I can't recall seeing a card that stacked in recent memory. If I'll have to perhaps think back to the Don King days, and even that I have to doubt myself. But it's an absolutely stacked card, headlined of course between the Undisputed Light Heavyweight Championship rematch between Artur Beterbiev and Dmitry Bivol. There's fights on it like Israel Madrimov and Virgil Ortiz, Hamza Shiraz and Carlos Adames, Callum Smith and Josh Abuatsi for you British fans. But there's also two big heavyweight fights on it, and one of them would be for the WBC interim title between the newest player on the top heavyweight scene, the German boxer from Turkish descent, Agit Kabayel, who will be taking on the big bang from China, Zhilei Zhang. That's a fight that really intrigues me because it's hard to figure out who is actually winning this. If you want to break down the big bang against Agit Kabayel with me, then stick around. Now, the fact that it's for a WBC interim belt means basically that the winner of Kabayel against Zhang will be the mandatory challenger for the main champ, Alexander Usyk, or in some case that Usyk retires, which is not on the cards, they'll become the WBC world champion. Basically just sticking a belt on a mandatory contender, but it is an important fight for both men, and I think it's very intriguing. Why? Because Agit Kabayel, he burst onto the scene in his last couple of fights, came to Riyadh. Up until then he was European champion, and he did not, his career sort of had lots of starts and stops in it, and then he stopped the favoured prospect Aslanbek Makhmudov. And in his next fight, he won another fight that I thought he wouldn't win. I thought he would beat Makhmudov, but then he fought Frank Sanchez, the Cuban heavyweight, and he stopped Frank Sanchez as well. What is it with Cuban heavyweights as pros, I wonder? You know, I remember Jorge Luis Gonzalez, Otlanier Solis, more recent memory, Luis Ortiz, and now Frank Sanchez. Why do they never quite seem to go all the way as pros? But that's a different discussion for another day. Anyway, Kabayel beat Frank Sanchez, and what Kabayel has got is something that not anybody else in the heavyweight division, perhaps only Usyk, has got. He has a very high work rate, and he can really grind and keep that pace very high. Good boxing skills, can box, can brawl a little bit, decent defense. You can hit him, but resilient, pesky, and in your face, and he picks his shots very well, and he sets that high pace. And if you can't take him out, it's very hard to keep up with that pace that Kabayel makes you fight at. Now, the reason why that's interesting, on the other hand, we have a southpaw, Zhilei Zhang, or Zhang Zhilei, I believe in China you say it the other way around. But no matter, I think Zhilei Zhang is in his 40s, and he's a big sort of plodding southpaw heavyweight with bricks in his hands. You know, 2 victories over Joe Joyce, stopped the then unbeaten Joe Joyce twice. Then, you know, before that he dropped a very close decision to Filip Hrgović. Then he lost a decision to Joseph Parker, who's also on the card, even though he knocked him down twice, but then bounced back to beat Deontay Wilder. And he will now be taking on Agit Kabayel. Now, the thing about the Big Bang, I can sort of, in a way, liken him to the 40-something-year-old George Foreman, because he comes forward and he throws these heavy shots. But unlike George Foreman, Zhang is more a guy that sets up for 1 or 2 big shots, and then he'll go after his opponent in a very controlled fashion. Because stamina is not always his best thing, whereas Big George in his days, you know, he was a bit more active. He used to club you with his wide shots, and then he'll have his clinically precision punches that took you out. But Zhilei Zhang, because he's slow, because he comes forward, because he's a puncher, people mistakenly think that he's not a very good boxer. He's in fact a very good boxer. You don't get that far in the Olympics if you can't box. The thing about Zhang is his defense is pretty good. He plays a good catches, but he catches his opponent's punches on his gloves, and he maneuvers his opponents into his punches. If you look at the Joseph Parker fight where he lost, when he did eventually nail Parker and knocked him down, Zhang is good with his footwork in a sense, even though he's so flat-footed. As a southpaw, the orthodox fighter tries to keep his lead foot on the outside, circle away from a straight left. And Parker's got good feet, but he wasn't quite able to do that. Zhang has a way of keeping his lead foot on the outside and just didn't allow Parker to move away from the big southpaw left that was coming this way. He kept sort of making that move out of the door very difficult for Parker, and that's why he nailed him for those knockdowns. But what is not good about Zhilei Zhang, he's got a good chin too, Zhang, by the way, but what isn't good about Zhang is he fights at a very slow pedestrian pace, much like George Foreman did, and if you make him fight at an uncomfortable pace, he's going to eventually gas out. But unlike Foreman, his pace is even slower, you know, and that's what cost him in the Parker fight. He had those knockdowns, but he let all the other rounds go because the punch output is so low. And that against a guy like Agit Kabayel can spell trouble, you know. Kabayel is a good boxer. He's going to set a high pace. There's no way Zhang is going to keep up the pace with Agit Kabayel, so he's going to have to knock him out, or he's going to have to knock him down for more than twice in the fight, like he did against Parker. Otherwise, it might well turn out like a Parker fight. Now, I've seen Kabayel before he fought Makhmudov in a European title fight against a Croatian fighter. He won it, and it was a wild fight. You can go look it up there on YouTube. But in that fight, it was a southpaw that Kabayel was fighting. He ran into something, he was badly hurt, but he recovered and he boxed and brawled his way out of it. And that worries me a little bit, always worried me a bit about Kabayel, but you know, Makhmudov and Sanchez couldn't do much to him. Now, Makhmudov was very predictable. Zhang sets up his punches much better than Makhmudov. Makhmudov just threw the right hand off the right hand, and that's why I thought beforehand Kabayel was going to beat him. But Frank Sanchez is not as predictable as Makhmudov, and Kabayel handled that too. So, you know, I think if Zhang nails Kabayel, he'll put him down like he did with Joseph Parker. Then the question is, can Zhang take him out? Because Zhang goes after his opponents, like he tried against Parker, but he's also very conscious of not punching himself out. You know, he gasses out. So he'll go after, but he's not going to go wild and throw everything but the kitchen sink and force for stoppage. And my gut feel tells me Kabayel will survive the dangerous spots. You guys, please tell me in the comment section who wins. Have you got Agit Kabayel? Have you got Zhilei Zhang? How do they win and why do they win? But for me, I'm going to go with Agit Kabayel here to win a clear points decision. He might get nailed at a point and he might get knocked down a la Joseph Parker. But I just think the pace of Agit Kabayel, despite the fact that Zhang is a southpaw, despite the fact that Zhang has got the height and the reach, the pace and the movement and the skills of Kabayel, not that Zhang hasn't got skills, will be a little too much. I just think if Kabayel survives, he can't lose this fight on points. There's a good chance that the big bang will land the big bang and take Kabayel out. For me, I can see Zhang going by way of knockout, but I'm leaning towards Agit Kabayel on a unanimous decision in a very tense sort of fight, battle of strategies that I'm looking forward to. So that's what I'm seeing. I am looking forward to this huge card on Riyadh, and until I see you guys again, remember to keep those hands up.